I'm actually going to read from my work in progress, which is a novel that I started in June, and I started it about 5 days after I finished the edits for Matilda Windsor that's published next year. And I started partly because of how fed up I was with the government, and also how much I missed my character, the main character. And then this woman who was 70 in my other novel, which is set in 1990, and given the problems that she'd had in her life, I presumed that she would be dead by now. But then I had the idea that she might be actually having her 100th birthday this year. So I thought that was too good an opportunity to lose. So this is a work in progress. It's really just the first draft of this novel, which I began in June, and it's set in a care home, and it runs between June 2019 and June 2020. And this, at the moment, is the opening. Matty would have stayed in her room with her own tasselled footstool and her own barley twist wallpaper and her own bell pull dangling by the bed. But she hates disappointing, oh my darling. Whereas some maids are brassy, oh my was born to serve. Matty panders to her whims, no matter how outlandish, rewarding her docility as the Lord bestowed his blessings on the meek. As the maid hooks her arm under hers to lift her from the chair, Matty hears coughing in the corridor. Is there a fire? Kerwendale is rife with rules, commandments that, if broken, could cast her back to Gilside. Smoking in bed is a cardinal sin, resisting a fire drill another. Naturally, the two go hand in hand, but despite being a non-smoker and thus exempt from the first, Matty could be penalised for the second. Oh, my darling cocks her head in that charming way of hers. Can't hear no alarm, can you? Matty cannot. Even the splutterer is silenced. She allows oh, my darling to ease her to her feet and convey her to the door. A lesser maid would have her shuffling inch by inch with the Zimmer, but oh, my darling bolsters her with her body, her arm a prop, her haunch a pillow. They might waltz from the room were Matty's own body in top-notch condition. A logjam at the lifts, assorted loved ones shooting grudging glances whether or not they have maids in tow. Naturally, they would prefer to tarry pressed against a portly cousin of Ella Fitzgerald, even if remarking on the family resemblance contravenes a Kerwendale law. In the lounge, Matty is deposited where she can appreciate the lilac blooming in the garden without being blinded by the sunspill or chilled by the draught from the open French windows. Pleasant as that might be, she detects nothing to warrant vacating her room. Buck up, whispers her mother. All will become clear in due course. Heeding her advice, Matty rests her eyes while registering that communing with her mother is another of Kerwendale's taboos. Matty is inured to waiting. Waiting is her chief occupation since retiring from the stage. The loved ones divert themselves with parlour games, television, and armchair aerobics, as if yet to grasp Kerwendale's function. A holding pin for the passage to eternity, designed to keep the loved ones breathing peaceably until their allotted puff is spent. She dozes and surfaces to a creaky chorus mid-song Matty recognises the melody, but she cannot winkle the words from the tangled archive of nursery rhymes in her head. Fortunately, her mouth proved sufficiently astute to make a stab at it. She does not catch whom the ditty is honouring, but as Goodnight Irene breezes in, bearing a cake crowned with candles, Matty slumps in her seat. She has abandoned her boudoir for a birthday tea. Such events erupt among the loved ones as frequently as bunions or the common cold. She could swear some have birthdays twice or thrice a year. As cake and candles glide towards her, Matty cringes. She scans the smiling faces for "Oh, my darling," but all are as pale as the cake's sugarized shell. "Make a wish," says Goodnight Irene. "Blow." Matty wishes for naught but a celestial reunion with her mother, and she petitions that in her prayers. Switching off her thoughts, she inhales to the base of her lungs and huffs. 9 charred wicks. 9? Has Goodnight Irene stinted on the candles, or were the intervening years a nasty dream? Unprompted, Goodnight Irene clarifies. "How does it feel to be 99, Matty? This time next year, you'll have a card from the Queen." "That'll call for a mammoth celebration," Mrs. Jefferson pipes up from the back of the room. Matty feels fatigued already. "Will darling Clementine be there?" Her maid peels herself from the shadows. "Of course, my lovely. Wild horses couldn't stop me." Matty is napping in the lounge among the loved ones when a baritone bark from inside the television shudders her awake. She could have dropped straight back to sleep again had not "Oh, my darling" crouched by her chair to hand her a nylon Union Jack on a candy floss skewer. She blinks at the screen. 2 sky grey stallions clop clip clop a Cinderella coach past ranks of men in pillar box red jackets and beehive furry hats. Behind them, lines of conch-coloured horses, their riders sporting pointy helmets, streaming silver hair. "Pay attention," says her mother. "You might learn something." As the men stomp in formation, Matty discerns some carry bugles and some carry drums. Then, as if by dint of her paying attention, they pay attention to their instruments and thrash out such a merry tune, Matty would dance a jig if she could rise from her chair unaided. "Oh, my darling" would help her, were she not so consumed by the spectacle, eyes agog and beaming so widely, her gold tooth gleams as she conducts the performers with her flag. Matty follows suit until her arm flounders. Presently, militiamen supplant the musicians. Matty's flag falls at her feet. Shielded from its deprivations, she has forgotten the war. Yet these drill like clockwork soldiers, clacking their weapons in unison from shoulder to shoulder and down to the ground. She would not flinch if, as they about turn, she spotted a wind-up key protruding from each red-coated rear. The loved ones have been observing quietly, apart from the standard coughs and throat clearings. Now one of them harumphs. "How long does this flim-flam go on for?" "Aren't you enjoying it, Olive?" says "Oh, my darling." "I'd rather sit through a reception class nativity," says the loved one. "It's less effort keeping a straight face." "I'm a sucker for pomp and ceremony," says "Oh, my darling." The Maharaja concurs. "It's our heritage." "It's obscene," A waste of state funds when folk are feeding bairns from food banks. Olive's chair whirs as she spins it around and wheels away. Oh, my darling's gaze pursues her to the door before sweeping the room. Everyone else happy to watch it? We could play Trivial Pursuit if you prefer. Mattie rattles her brain for something to restore her maid's bonhomie. As the screen flips to cheering crowds, attired for a blustery English summer, she recalls the solitary passenger in the gilded carriage. That lady is held in high esteem. The Maharaja guffaws. I should bloody hope so. You might have missed the introduction, says Oh My Darling. It's the Queen's official birthday. Queen Elizabeth, says Mattie. Who did you expect, says the Maharaja. Queen Camilla? Queen Kate? Mattie directs her words to Oh My Darling. Is she 100? In another 7 years, says the Maharaja. Don't tell me you've never seen Troop in the Colour. Mattie does not deign to reply. From amid the muddle, the battlefields mixed with orchestras, the flags and fairy tales and fancy dress, she is gathering the ingredients of a brilliant plan. Her mother advised watching closely. Mattie has caught every cue. Olive's passion for drama, the birthday pageant. Even the Maharaja was impressed. Next year, Mattie will be 100. She will mark it with more than a card from the Queen. Thank you.